And also, like, how cool was Maxim and Yvonne, like, both coming from different angles, like,
Oh,
into camera view? It was so, like, it was
the
so Western.
the entry was so epic. I loved it. Though I'm not sure like what 1.2 is gonna do V7 because like Maximum and Yvonne count as like point 0.1. They're not. They're not Aes Sedai. Like I get that they're like really good and they have the warder bond and they can all link up together and stuff, but it's still like a 1.2 V7.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
I don't know what Alana's
Realistically.
thinking here. She should have like sent up some emergency flares or something because her.
Like and subscribe to the channel, and for early access, become a Road to Tar Valon YouTube member.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. Amber here with Laura, and we are catching back up after this huge teaser clip that was released by Prime Video. How are you feeling?
I think it's great. Honestly, like my mom texted me last night, all excited about it. I've watched it a bunch of times. I cannot wait for this season to start because I really think we're getting a lot of action that we've kind of missed out on in the last 2 seasons.
I think so too, because we haven't yet really gotten to see a big upscaled fantasy magic battle yet.
Yeah.
And in the books, like there's so many that happen. Don't get me wrong, like Moraine channeling in episode 1, the very first episode of the show, and fighting off the Trollocs and everything, very
Not
cool,
the same.
very pleasing to watch. But on the scale, it's not the same.
On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being this 11-minute clip, that is like a 3.
Yeah, I think it's something that book fans have been really waiting for. So for them to release this, I feel like this is the first big promotional thing that they've posted for this season, and I think it was a wise choice.
Unless you're like, really into it and watching for their weekly drops on Wednesdays, like there hasn't been a whole lot of chatter from Amazon about it.
For your mom to get a hold of you and be like, hey, look, this thing is out, that shows that it's reaching people who aren't even watching the show.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's watched it before, so I would imagine that like Amazon kind of pushed it to her in app, but she was very excited about it. My mom likes action, so I do too. And as much as I've loved the show so far, I think that like some action would be good for it.
I think so too. And a lot of the times I noticed that I felt very different about this clip in a way that surprised me, because so often I feel like shows rely on spectacle to kind of like get the word of mouth going and stuff like that. The Wheel of Time hasn't really done that yet. We've had 2 seasons where, like it's very fantasy, good, bad, evil, it is what it is. But for them to present this, it's finally kind of feeling more like, hey guys, keep your butts in your seat, because there's a lot of like crazy stuff that's bound to happen this season. And for them to present this, it feels like a really good marketing strategy.
Absolutely. That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah. Before we had even started recording, I was telling you I was watching a YouTube channel cover it. And I think they confused what they were watching for another scene in the books, but they were saying this is too much spectacle. And I disagree, because for everyone who hasn't already watched the show, who's not interested, maybe they're not interested in fantasy, maybe they're not interested in what Rosamund Pike is in, like none of the big named actors really made a difference to them. The story is nothing for them. I feel like a clip like this is going to get people thinking, like, what is this? And I had posted a little clip of it on Instagram, and I was having people in the comments who aren't Wheel of Time fans saying, what show is this? Where can I watch this? So I think mission success on Prime Video's part.
At some level, it is important that people outside of just the book readers watch the show.
Yeah, exactly.
In order to keep the show going, it needs to hit like its viewer cap lines and whatever other audacious, like, you know, requirements that Amazon puts on there. But it's things like this that'll draw in people who are generally not in these spaces, like in the fantasy spaces.
Yeah, I've tried to get people to watch this, and then like I've had people be like, not really my thing. That's fine. Someone responded to me just like a day ago and said, "All right, you were right." After seeing this clip, like, okay, yeah, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
And that's not to like speak badly of the story up until this point. Like, I love fantasy. So when I came across Wheel of Time a few years ago, it was like, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm really liking this. But I, you know, generally like these types of shows. So it wasn't like a hard push for Amazon to get me to watch it. And, you know, it's been crazy, you know, with us talking about it and stuff like for the last now like 4 years. And I'm really excited for it to possibly have the chance to like really gain mainstream notoriety like a Game of Thrones did.
it really deserves it. I mean, the books, let's be honest, it's a very long,
It's a meaty
really
it's a meaty read.
it really is. And I understand that some people just it's too much. And that's okay.
14 books
It's
is daunting, but
yes.
14 seasons I'm eyeing like a delicious pizza.
And even if you thought about like, yes, they did one season per book, you would still have so much cut out because the books are huge.
Yeah. But I also think like the way that they're doing it makes the story really approachable.
There's so much happening in this scene. I know in our last chat we were talking about politics, like really excited for that to come to the forefront.
I've thought about some things like concerning what we see happen. I don't think it's surprising to see the Gray and White Aja get like really wrapped up in being dark friends. Like I can see how both of those like Ajas could go either way depending on how you look at things.
I think the White Aja would be susceptible to it in the way that a Shamael was. Like if we go by logic and numbers alone, all it takes is one time to break the wheel and then this repeating history reincarnation, it's done. We don't have to deal with that anymore. I could see there being some pretty good appeal to that in the White Aja. The Greys being more like political emissaries and stuff like that. What was your take on that for them?
Well, politically, it works for them. If it's about politics, politics is like about politicking and deal making behind the scenes and always making sure you're on the right side of things.
True. Yeah, that's more logic. I see no flaw here.
But I did find it like the yellow Ajas that join for some reason seem like the most surprising to me.
Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the things from the books that always shocked me too, because there were so many in the yellow Aja, and it was like, why? I don't remember if the yellow is that much bigger than any of the others either. Like if it was just a numbers thing, like there was already more in that Aja to begin with. I'd have to go back and look, but yeah, being healers do no harm.
Right.
Well, that goes out the window.
I mean, I guess I should have said that with the blues, it's not really surprising either because spies doing spy stuff, like you're gonna have double agents and things like that. That's naturally going to occur in those types of scenarios. The reds, I don't know if it's necessarily surprising or not. Like they're like the police.
Yeah.
So I guess they're the ones that, as long as it fits their narrative. The greens, those I think are a little more surprising to me too.
The one Green Aja member, Jane, I think is how
she rolls in looking like an Instagram model.
Girl. What? I feel like
Maxima's like, Jean! And then she's like, haha, take that.
I can feel them dying. Thrilled about it.
I have to wonder, like, the women from the Red Ajah were kind of like in that little standoff with Maxima and Yvonne, and they're all
Mhm.
like, you're not going anywhere. And they're like, do you want, your Aes Sedai to die or not? Let us through. And then Jean shows up, and then you realize, like, the Reds, I don't think they knew what they were, like, signing up for. When they're like,
No.
we're with you no matter what, I don't think they realized what the no matter what was. I want to know what would have happened if they were in the room.
Right. Right.
That's what I want to know. Would they have stuck with Leandrin, or would they have been like, nah, girl, you're on your own. You're doing too much.
Well, I think we will see more of that later in the season, like how they cope with these reveals in terms of like how the politics go, because there's definitely this like long-standing feud between the Reds and the Blues. So I think despite this Leandrin reveal, they're still going to put some blame on Swan Sanche for allowing this to happen. And I mean, I guess you could see it two ways. One hand, you could see Swan as being too brash and not being prepared enough for this whole trial, and her having suspicions that Leandrin is part of the Black Aja and not having the force there to like deal with that. But on the other hand, there's no foreseeable way that Swan Sanche really thought that there was going to be that many Black Aja members as sitters in the room there with them.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of Swan,
what a twist.
I was pretty impressed that what Leandrin said was true. And
Yeah.
she like sidestepped around that like a pro.
It was so good. It was so good.
But
She just let her
like,
she let her spill it all out and was like, "Yeah, go on," because she could just say you're lying.
yeah,
It's that
and
easy and prove it.
yeah, prove it. And then Leandrin couldn't, because Swan never said yes or no. She just said prove it,
Yeah.
which isn't like an admission or a denial of anything. But then, like you were saying, Swan kind of like overplayed her hand, for lack
Yeah.
of a better term. Like, she really thought that like her and the women in there were gonna like take Leandrin down, and she had this idea that as long as she keeps the Reds out, because the Reds are obviously the problem here, she had no idea that the Dark had been recruiting out of everywhere. They have people all over the tower and in the sitters. Like, oh my gosh, it was like every 1 in 3 was a Dark friend.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too. There's that moment where, Leandrin kind of calls everyone forward, like, it's time, let's do this. Like, Black Aja, let's go. You have that moment where the women who were Black Aja stand up and they kind of like, they're looking around, and there's almost that feeling of like they weren't even sure how many of them were in the room. I know we had talked about the rule of 3 in terms of Black Aja, where it's like only 3 know, the other 3 in their heart. So it kind of felt like they were uncovering who else were Black Aja members in the same time that, Swan Sanche and everyone else was. And I thought that was pretty
Okay.
cool.
So it did look like 1 gray and 1 white Aja, like, definitely were in the same trio together. They definitely looked at each other. And so I have to
Mhm.
wonder if those two were in like the little pod with Leandrin. And then, because what, by the end, we have 7 total, and we had lost 1.
I think there might have been more actually. I'd have to go back and count, but on the street we've got 7, right?
Yeah, we have 7 on the street, and we're missing the 1 on the street. The only one who doesn't make it to the street is the 1 gray Aja woman, which I actually have some questions about that, because she seemed okay. I know she got kind of like, it's the woman, the bald woman,
Yeah, Joya.
Joya. So she's really like putting the hurt down during the fight. Then Alana manages to like send her sailing with catching her off guard. When Leandrin's all like, link with me, she like is in that scene, definitely linking with Leandrin, but then like we lose her at some point. From that to the Western showdown in the street, we kind of lose her and gain a different Grey Ajah woman.
Yeah, I think in the chaos of how that's shot, like we're cutting back and forth between so many people, it was really hard for me to remember how many Black Aja were in the room, plus how many were in the hall, and out of all of them, who end up on the street.
So including Leandrin, there's 5 in the room, 2 in the hall,
One with Varen.
and 1 with Varen.
Okay.
So we have 8 total. So then we lose Joya at some point, and maybe she like ran off to do like some sort of side quest. Who knows? That's not to say that they like just mixed it up.
In the trailer, that was her chained, where we were watching it and like, who is that chained up down there? I thought it was someone with blonde hair because I wasn't watching it like on a big enough screen, but it's actually
Right.
Joya.
Okay, so she just kind of got captured somehow.
That's what I'm assuming.
All right. Well, I mean, we'll see how that all plays out. Another thing I really enjoyed was that Western showdown at the end.
Yes. Yes.
That was a fun way to do that. They even like adjusted the music to feel a little bit westerny.
I was so expecting like a wah, wah, wah.
Yes.
Like tumbleweed floats across the street.
I wish they had made a tumbleweed float across the street. That would have been so great.
And also, like, how cool was Maxim and Yvonne, like, both coming from different angles, like, into camera view? It was so, like, it was so Western.
The entry was so epic. I loved it. Though I'm not sure, like, what 1.2 is going to do V7, because, like, Maximum and Yvonne count as, like, 0.1. They're not Aes Sedai. Like, I get that they're like really good and they have the warder bond and they can all link up together and stuff, but it's still like a 1.2 V7.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
I don't know what Alana's thinking here. She should have like sent up some emergency flares or something. Cause
the part that got me was when they were banging on the door, like, Alana, we're coming. And it's like, oh, bless your hearts. Like, what are you going to do if you're in that room? I mean, I know they just want to protect Alana, but.
Right. But yeah, I'm curious as to how that like showdown's going to turn out, because it seems really stacked against them.
Right. We know that there's some other Aes Sedai on the street because Swan and a few of the others were with them. So I'm really excited to see how. Yeah, Moraine's down there.
Moraine
too,
and Lan
somewhere.
are still unaccounted for down there, unless they take off, which could happen.
I'm really curious to see if this scene is actually like the cold open, like the first few minutes of the show as a whole, or if we have other moments. Because this is my thing. If Moraine is seeing this happen and she can't get there in time to do anything, what leads her? I mean, it's just, there's so much to think about here in terms of like how they're plotting this episode out. But I'm really curious what her next actions will be. And on top of that, what happened to Nynaeve? Like, did she go running to Egwene or someone else? Like, where did she end up? It's all kind of a blur. So I'm excited to see where everything stands after this action sequence ends.
I am too, because if it's not the cold open, then there's material on both sides.
Yeah.
So there's like the lead into it and then what happens after. Like what you were talking about, like, is Nynaeve just like trapped under some boulders from the pillars being like cut down around her, or did she escape? Like, did she follow them all out into the street for this like epic showdown?
I can see this being a really impactful moment for Nynaeve once again, being caught in this situation of helplessness, not being able to do anything or protect anyone.
Yeah, I actually see it as like more examples of why maybe this isn't necessarily the life for her.
Yeah. It, yeah. I'm
She's
trying to like, I'm like, no big spoilers here.
I just say that because like she's such an authentic person, and authenticity isn't necessarily a part of being an Aes Sedai.
Yeah, I guess it as a whole, it's really hard because it's like the interpretation of the law or the law itself, right?
Right. Yeah.
And Nynaeve kind of shucks that, this is the law. She's going to do what's right. Screw the laws, which I love about her. So I mean, yeah, I could see this being something in the back of her head like, is this the life for me?
Well, she was already like feeling like, is this the life for me? And I feel like this will probably move her impactfully in one of two directions. Like she's either going to like become really into it, or it's going to increase the amount of inner turmoil she feels about it.
Yeah. And also, people who are listening, maybe if you've just stumbled upon my channel recently, Laura has not read the book. So when I say no spoilers here, I'm trying not to spoil her. So, a lot of Laura's comments and stuff, I feel like a lot of the times you're really on point. Like you've caught things very quickly where it's like, I have my suspicions about this, and I have to do my best to not ruin it for you. Like last episode where I paused way too long and
I knew I was right when you paused for too long.
I think too with this scene, them presenting this and kind of building up this, the tower is crumbling. Even with their social media tweets, they're kind of hinting at this location of Tar Valon and the White Tower being broken. And we've got some lines in the trailer as well from Egwene. So I think this is going to be one of the settings and one of the locations in season 3 that just gets a lot of time.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it is, I would say, when we get from, the end of season 1 is basically like we finally made it to the tower. And I mean, it is this larger than life location, all powerful. It's a really great way to kind of wrap things into this new dynamic of like the world has been turned upside down, right? Like the Dragon
Right.
Reborn has proclaimed himself. The White Tower, this infallible institution, all powerful that knows no bounds, is broken. And then we've got, things going on in Tanchico and things going on in the Io Waste and the Two Rivers this season. But I really am looking forward to more of that White Tower stuff in this season because once you get that out of the way, I feel like the whole series just really takes off. I mean, this is such a jumping point to the story. The beginning is like, we got to get to Tar Valon. We've got to make it there. It's the place of safety. I mean, even my channel name, Road to Tar Valon, like that's how much it means, right? And so like it being broken is a huge aspect of the story. And for some people who are hoping for more politics, I think everything that you're going to see after this just starts to snowball.
Yeah, because what do you do after this? You suspect everybody.
Yeah.
When you have that many sitters turn dark friend, how do you trust anybody?
Yeah. And also, before we move on from this actual battle inside, Leanne, what a champion. I mean, what a plot sequence they mapped out for her, even though she is mostly on the periphery of this entire thing, had some of the coolest over the top, like just rage emanating from her. Her beaming this woman to death with her staff was just, oh my God.
Is there anything special about that staff, or is it just a staff?
It's just a symbol. It's,
Okay.
she's the keeper of the chronicles. So like that's it's her thing.
Okay.
But the actress she's done like a lot of action heavy shows. So I was really waiting to see when that was going to be used, because like she's twirling the staff and stuff. She's done a lot of stunt acting in the past. So like getting to see that was really cool. And
Yeah.
also just like in terms of her connection with Swan Sanche, I brought this up in my breakdown video, but if Swan has a confidant in Moraine, the only other person that's that close to her is Leanne. And so, you know, boulders flying, Swan getting hit left and right. She's healed at one point and then she's back up. And then, people are hurling more weaves and it's like, protect the Amerlin. Like, you've got this almost Secret Service aspect where Swan is in one location and Alana and Leanne are like trying to block her at in all ways possible. And after Swan gets hit, you just see Leanne unleashed, right? And it was really great.
Yeah, it was interesting to see Leanne really unleash like that. It was a great moment for her
Yeah.
character.
So, was there anything else you wanted to move on from? Talk a little bit about some of these things that we see in the Varen,
Yes, please let us speak about the Angreals.
all the Grials.
Yeah.
So there's a ton in there, right? There's so
Yeah.
many.
There's like the little disc, and then we see the God, what is it that the Adom use?
Oh, the cuff.
Yeah, we see the cuff, which means that the neck piece is probably inside the clay jar it was sitting on top of. I mean, that's just like my best guess at that. Then we have that like wild dice.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have what appears to be like a marble statue. And was there like some sort of weaponry sticking out of her bag when she meets back up with Leandrin?
It looked like part of this rod that you can see kind of a better image of when Adelaus gets hit with that weave of compulsion. It's like a rod, and then there's a bell shaped thing next to it. I don't know. I've been going through a lot of the Angreal. This rod shaped one, I think it could be two things, and probably there's more options. There's so many Angreal and Terangreal and Saangreal in the books. But what I was hoping with this one, so I'll read to you what it is, and you can tell me if you think that it fits the look. So this one's called the Sarkarnan, and it means the causer or instrument of greatest punishment in the Old Tongue.
Okay.
So it's also known as the Dejet or simply the Scepter during the Age of Legends. It's a male Saangreal. So Saangreal means like super boosting the channeler who holds it.
Okay.
Saangreal is like the most powerful. And this is the second most powerful Saangreal made for male channelers. And it's in the shape of a scepter with an hourglass shaped goblet affixed atop of it made of gold. So when I saw that, I was like, is that it? Because if it's just this rod without the bell shaped hourglass thing, it could also be something called the fluted black rod, which this is stolen from Leandrin's group in the books, but this is something to make balefire, and we haven't seen balefire yet on the show. So if it was that, then it means we're going to see some balefire, I think.
Like pre-Rand going nutty and bale firing a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In the books, we've already seen balefire at this point. In the show, we haven't, but there is a big scene in this book where balefire happens. So I think they're probably going to do it this season. And especially if this is the fluted black rod, then I feel like confirmation. But
Right.
also, if it's not that, and if it's the Sarkarnan, that would mean maybe we'll see one of the Forsaken who wields the Sarkarnan this season,
Ooh.
which that would be awesome because this Forsaken is, oh boy, he's a trip. Yeah. So which one of these items are you more curious about? We'll go there.
Okay, so what's up with the twisted stone door frame?
Ooh, okay. So this one is kind of like a portal.
That's what I was thinking, but a portal to where?
It so it provides protected access to the domains of the Aelfin and the Eelfin in the parallel world of the Fin.
Okay.
So this means like you're going into a different realm, like a different world,
Kind of like parallel universe type theory.
like a different, yeah, it's not like our world, it's not like the Wheel of Time world. You're going to a different whole different locale. And it's nutty but awesome. So seeing this, here's my thoughts. A lot of people are really hoping, really wanting to get to this Finn world, okay? I do not think they would spend the time creating this just as an Easter egg. It's huge. It would have taken a lot of work. If we're not going to see the Finn, I doubt that they would even make this. So
Okay.
I'm feeling pretty confident here.
All right. All right. What do the dice do?
Okay, this one, that's wild. This is such a wild thing to see. Never in a million years did I think I would see this. So, this one is the six spotted dice, and it's a terangrial that was stolen by Leandrin's group. In the books, the use is unknown, except that channeling through it is a way to kind of manipulate chance.
Okay.
So it can like twist your odds.
Okay. I have to assume that everything we see is going to be seen again.
I think so too. I mean, there's no point in doing these big close-ups. Like they're getting some of these items are getting like beauty shots. Like it's
Right.
lingering up close.
All
And a
right.
lot of
So,
these are being held in like their own, special little like barred areas. So they're fancy, they're special.
right. So, what's going on with the disc?
Okay. I'm pretty sure this is a dream weaver or a sleep weaver. So one of these sleep weavers, oh, by the way, a sleep weaver is something that can pull you into Terangri or
Teleronriode?
Teleronrio. Thank you. So you don't have to be a channeler or anything. Like some of them will just work like as soon as it's touching your body.
Okay.
This one, seemingly made of simple iron, but has been untouched by rust over the years. It is 3 inches in diameter and finely engraved with a tight spiral on both sides. By channeling spirit into the disc, the user will fall asleep and then enter Teleron. So this one you actually have to channel into, meaning it could only work for a channeler. So that, pretty important.
Okay. So, we've kind of covered everything that's seen like in that shot.
We haven't talked about the woman,
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, what does that one do?
I think this figure of the woman is called the alabaster figurine. It's in the shape of an unclothed woman, is made of alabaster, and is 1 hand tall. The use of the alabaster figure is unknown. Evidence suggests it's another sleep weaver. So another item that could pull you into Teleron Riod. Which, if this is the case and we've got 2 sleep weavers just in this room, I feel like we're going to be spending a lot of time in Teleron Riod this season.
Yeah. And isn't that kind of like Ishi and Lanfear's like domain?
Yes, but him and Lanfear are pretty OP in Teleron Riod compared to a lot of our other characters. Lanfear thinks she's the best in Teleron Riod, but I think there's some evidence to suggest that Mogideon is actually better, at least in the books. And also, if you think about it, this might just be something that the Black Aja needs so that they can meet with the Forsaken in Teleron Riod, like a
Oh,
location where they
okay.
can get special orders or whatever. Also, do you have any guesses on who, or I should say, if Leandrin was actually acting on any orders from the Forsaken to get this stuff? Or was this just a Black Aja plan?
I mean, to me, it seems like they would be acting on Forsaken orders. Do the Reds really like know what inventory is kept in that room?
Only a select few. So, I
Okay,
mean, Varen had access, so she knew. But besides her, it's
but she's
usually
not a Red.
right. If it's not her, it would have to be one of the Reds who are like really high up and like really trusted, I feel like, because like how fantasy, like not everyone gets access to the super secret, fancy, special library, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. No, I feel like they were given a list. Collect these things, and then, I mean, she did say that she just grabbed whatever she could carry.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
don't think that like all of the items that leave with her are specifically asked for outside of the rod.
So you think when Leandrin said, "Did you get it?" and Naomi is like, "I got everything I could carry." What do you think that the rod was what Leandrin was asking for?
Uh, maybe. I don't know. I'm torn between the rod and the woman figurine. I mean, the cuff, maybe, but there's only one cuff. I could see if they had like access to a bunch of them, like the Sean Chen, but I don't know really like. I guess like there are some channelers I could think of that they would want to enslave. Because I could see where it's like, okay, well, they could cuff Swan, but Swan can be deposed and
This is
replaced.
true. Yeah.
So to me, I feel like they were looking for something else and the cuff just happened to come with.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to see which one of these we're going to see in full effect this season.
What's the first thing we see her take? Is it the woman figurine? I
I
think
think
so.
that's, yeah, the first one she grabs and then she
Okay,
takes,
that I'm
I
going with the
believe.
woman figurine.
Okay. Okay. I like that. So here's another thing too. A lot of these objects, they don't even know how they work.
Well, they have to
So,
know how at least the one, well, I guess they don't have to know if they've been given a shopping list from a Forsaken. What Forsaken stands to benefit the most from this?
ooh. Well, I mean, we saw her last season talking to Lanfear, where it kind of, Lanfear was like, "You're under my orders now. It's me and you. Like, forget Ishamael."
Yeah.
So I feel like if anyone gave them the orders, it would be her.
Does she do that? Here's why I asked, because like Lanfear has a totally separate set of motivators from the rest of the Forsaken. Like she just kind of gets to do what she wants. Now, let's say one of the items that like pull somebody into Tel'aran'rhiod is the focus, then I could see it being Lanfear. But if it's something else, I feel like what if it's Mogideon or another Forsaken? Yeah, but if they don't know how to use them,
Some of them, yeah. So here's the thing, some of them are known, some of them are unknown. And you have to have a specific talent to be able to figure out how they work. So, do you remember in season 2 where Rima was like having this little lesson with Elaine and Nynaeve, and she's like, feel it, touch the collar?
oh, she does
Some
that.
people can kind of feel how things work in a way. Nynaeve was like, oh, I feel like it needs healed in a way or it needs fixed. And the only way to do that is to put it on someone's neck. She could like sense things from it.
Okay.
So there's a lot of weirdness with all these. I'm calling them the Grials, where it's like some are known, some are unknown. Some of them you might be able to figure it out if you have someone who's talented in that. So if they don't know how these work, they're gonna
They're
need
gonna need a
someone.
kidnap. They're gonna have to kidnap someone.
Yeah, but so many possibilities to see where they go with this. So, if you are listening, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with the new show season coming out soon. We will definitely be covering more. You can find me on Instagram, Blue Sky, Discord. I think we've got a group of people on Discord who are probably going to get together and watch these new episodes too. Also, a lot of book readers, not just The Wheel of Time, but fantasy, sci fi, all of that. If you're looking for a little community to hang out with and talk about books and TV shows and movies. Also, if you would like to help support the channel, you can find me on Patreon or YouTube memberships. That wraps it up. Thanks for listening, and we will see you back next time.